The city of Varelia was shining under the twin suns, its crystal towers glinting like rivers of light. The streets were quiet in the early hours, yet the palace was alive with preparations. Today was the day of the bond trials, a sacred ceremony where young nobles would choose their partners. Among them, the Princess Aelira stood at a high balcony, her pale hands resting on the railing. She could not see the glittering spires or the crowds below, yet she felt the excitement like a storm in her chest. Aelira had always known that she was different. Born blind and physically weak, she had spent her life learning to navigate the world through sound, touch, and intuition. Her mind was sharp, her heart compassionate, but the Varelian people valued strength and vision. Many had tried to bond with her, drawn by curiosity or duty, but all had refused when they sensed her fragility. Her father, the king, had tried to console her countless times. "Aelira," he said gently, "strength is not always in the body. You have a mind and heart that can guide nations. One day someone will see that." But his words could not erase the sting of rejection. The council chamber was already full. Nobles from across Varelia, their tall figures and glowing eyes reflecting authority, whispered amongst themselves. The bond trials were meant to honor the princess, yet many saw them as a test of her worth. Some doubted she deserved a partner at all. Aelira moved to the center of the chamber, holding the ceremonial crystal in her hands. She could feel its smooth surface, the faint hum of energy vibrating through it. This crystal would reveal a bond's compatibility, connecting two souls in a way that went beyond words. Today, she hoped for a miracle. One by one, candidates stepped forward. The first, a young noble with strong arms and a confident smile, approached her. He bowed, his aura bright and commanding. "Princess Aelira," he said, "I wish to bond with you." Aelira extended her hand, feeling the warmth of his touch. But as soon as their energies met, he recoiled. Fear and doubt flashed in his mind. He muttered an excuse and stepped back. The council murmured disapproval, though secretly many were relieved. The next candidate was timid, shy, and careful. He tried, but the crystal flickered weakly and died. Another rejection. One after another, they all failed, unable to connect with her. Some avoided her gaze entirely, as if her blindness made her dangerous or cursed. Aelira lowered the crystal to her chest, her heart heavy. She had learned to hide her disappointment behind a calm smile. But today, the hurt was sharp and raw. She felt the weight of isolation more than ever. In that moment, she wondered if she would ever find someone who could see her not as weak, but as she truly was. Outside the palace, the human delegation had arrived. Earth had recently joined the Galactic Union, and their presence was unusual in Varelia. Humans were unpredictable and different, often judged as reckless by alien civilizations. Among them, Captain Marcus Hale stood apart. His tall frame, broad shoulders, and calm expression made him noticeable, but it was his eyes that held curiosity and warmth. He had witnessed the failed bond attempts from the balcony and felt a stirring of something unfamiliar. Marcus had been trained for war, diplomacy, and survival. He had seen countless crises, yet the sight of the rejected princess touched him deeply. He did not know why, but he felt a pull, a quiet voice telling him that Aelira deserved someone who would see her courage and intelligence, not just her limitations. When the last candidate withdrew, the chamber fell silent. Aelira stood alone, her hands trembling slightly. The council whispered nervously, unsure what to do. The princess's failure was unprecedented. Never before had so many declined her. Some argued that the trial should be postponed. Others suggested she should choose herself. Marcus moved forward. He did not care about tradition or the whispers around him. He stepped onto the polished floor, walking with measured confidence toward the princess. Every step drew curious looks from the council, shocked gasps from the crowd. "I will bond with her," Marcus said clearly, his voice firm yet gentle. "If no one else will, I will." A silence fell over the chamber. Gasps turned to whispers. A human, bonding with a Varelian princess. Such an act was unthinkable. The council protested. "Captain Hale, you do not understand the risks. The bond may fail. It could harm you both." Marcus shook his head. "I understand the risks. I also understand the courage of someone who has faced rejection her entire life and still stands with dignity. I will not turn away." Aelira felt a strange warmth in her chest. For the first time that day, she smiled truly, without hiding behind a mask. She reached out her hand. Then, "If you are willing, she said softly. "We may try." The chamber fell silent again as Marcus placed his hand on hers. The crystal flared to life, a brilliant light filling the room. It was brighter than any had seen in centuries, and it pulsed with an energy that seemed alive. The Varelians gasped, their eyes wide in astonishment. The light danced across Marcus's face, then Elira's, revealing expressions of awe, connection, and wonder. For Marcus, the bond was immediate. He could feel Elira's thoughts, her emotions, and the depth of her intelligence. Her mind was like a river, flowing with knowledge and kindness. He marveled at her perception of the world, seeing how she experienced life without sight, yet with clarity and awareness that few possessed. For Elira, the bond was transformative. Through Marcus, she felt the world in a way she had never imagined. She saw the sunlight reflecting on the palace walls, the vibrant colors of the banners, the subtle movements of every person in the room. She saw not just the physical world, but the strength and courage within Marcus, the compassion he carried for others. The crowd watched, mesmerized. This was unprecedented. A human had bonded with a Varelian princess, and the energy radiating from the crystal was more powerful than any ritual in recorded history. Some whispered of miracles, others of omens, but no one could deny what they were witnessing. When the light finally dimmed, Marcus and Elira stood together, hands still joined. Elira's eyes, though physically blind, seemed to glow with understanding. "I can see," she whispered, a tear rolling down her cheek. "Through you." Marcus smiled gently. "And I can feel your strength," he replied. "You are not weak. You never were." The council, still shocked, realized that the bond was complete and stable. The crystal confirmed their connection. Any doubt had vanished, replaced by a profound sense of respect and awe. As the ceremony ended, the crowd slowly dispersed, their whispers turning from doubt to admiration. Elira and Marcus walked side by side through the palace corridors, talking quietly. She asked about Earth, about humans, about his life. He shared stories of battles, of loyalty, and of hope. Each story, each shared thought strengthened their bond and deepened their understanding of one another. Later, in the privacy of the princess's chambers, Elira reflected on the day. She had faced rejection her entire life, yet today, someone had seen her true self. She realized that courage was not only in standing against danger, but in opening one's heart and trusting another. Marcus had trusted her, and in return she had trusted him. Marcus, meanwhile, contemplated the uniqueness of this connection. Humans had faced prejudice before, but nothing like this. Yet he felt proud, honored, and determined. He knew that their bond would face challenges from those who doubted it. But he also knew that together they could overcome anything. That night, as the twin suns set behind the crystal towers, Elira stood on her balcony once more. Feeling Marcus's presence through the bond, she felt the city, the people, and the possibilities ahead. For the first time in her life, she did not feel weak or alone. And Marcus, looking out over the same city from his own vantage point, knew that he had found something rare and precious. Not just a partner, but a true equal in spirit and mind. Together they had begun a bond that could change not only their lives, but the course of Varelian history. The palace, the city, and even the galaxy would soon learn that courage, compassion, and understanding could cross species, traditions, and expectations. The princess who had been rejected by all now stood strong, not because of her body, but because of her heart, and because a human had dared to see her worth. The bond would be tested, challenges awaited, but in that moment nothing mattered except the connection between two souls. Elira and Marcus had begun a journey together, one that would illuminate not only the path before them, but the hearts of those who had doubted them for so long. And in the quiet of the night, with the city bathed in golden light, both realized something extraordinary. Sometimes, the greatest strength is the courage to believe in someone when no one else will. After the bond ceremony, the palace felt different. The air was filled with whispers, some filled with awe, others with suspicion. Elira moved through the corridors with Marcus by her side, feeling his presence through the bond. Every movement, every thought, every heartbeat was shared between them, and it gave her strength she had never known. The council watched cautiously, unsure how to treat the human who had bonded with their princess. Marcus, however, paid no mind to the council's eyes. He focused on understanding Elira, learning her language of feelings and sharing his experiences. He had faced battles and seen countless worlds, but nothing compared to this connection. He could feel her courage, her fear, her dreams, and he knew he would protect her, not because she was a princess, but because she was remarkable. In the days that followed, the palace became a place of tension and curiosity. Virelians whispered about the human's audacity and the princess's wisdom. Scholars examined the bond, noting that it was stronger than any recorded before. They marveled at the energy flowing between two very different beings. And even skeptics began to acknowledge that the bond was stable and alive. Elira and Marcus spent hours exploring the palace, learning about each other's worlds. She taught him how to sense the environment without sight, how to hear the faintest vibrations in the floor, how to feel the subtle changes in air and energy. He showed her what humans saw and felt, from the warmth of sunlight to the sounds of distant oceans. Through their sharing, they discovered more than each had imagined, bridging not only species but understanding itself. Yet not everyone welcomed this union. Lord Tarav, a proud noble who had sought the princess's hand for years, simmered with jealousy and rage. He could not bear to see Elira bonded with a human, someone he considered inferior. Quietly, he gathered followers, plotting to prove that the bond was unstable. In his mind, if the bond failed, he would gain influence in the princess's position. The first challenge came when the delegation from the Galactic Union arrived for a formal meeting. Representatives from multiple worlds observed the human-Virelian bond with curiosity and concern. Elira and Marcus were expected to attend together, demonstrating the strength of their connection. As they entered the grand hall, eyes turned to them. Murmurs filled the room, some admiring, some skeptical. Elira felt a mixture of pride and anxiety. She could sense Marcus's calm reassurance through the bond, and it steadied her. When they approached the center, a sudden tremor shook the hall. The building was ancient, built on shifting crystal foundations, but this was different. Marcus's instincts alerted him before anyone else could react. Shadows moved along the walls, cloaked figures attacking the delegation. Lord Tarav had planned it. He had hired mercenaries to disrupt the meeting and create chaos, hoping to discredit the bond. Elira's heart pounded as she sensed the fear of those around her. Marcus moved instinctively, guiding her to safety while assessing the attackers. He felt her hesitation and courage, and it reminded him that they were stronger together. The fight began. Marcus dodged the first strike, countering with precise movements. Though trained in human combat, the palace's corridors and gravity behaved differently. Yet through the bond, Elira shared her intuition of movement, alerting him to dangers he could not see. She could not fight physically, but her mind was sharp, guiding Marcus and enhancing his reflexes. The attackers pressed forward, but they underestimated the combined strength of human determination and Virelian perception. Marcus's movements were precise, calculated, yet fueled by courage. Elira, through the bond, amplified his awareness, sensing every shift in the attackers' positions. Together they moved as one, a team neither world had seen before. The palace guards arrived, inspired by the unexpected strength of the human princess pair. They rallied around Marcus and Elira, pushing back the intruders. Lord Tarav's plan faltered as the attackers were defeated, their mission failing. The council, witnessing this, realized that the bond was not only real, but powerful beyond imagination. After the battle, Elira and Marcus stood in the hall, breathing heavily but unbroken. Elira felt the bond's energy pulsing through her. "I never imagined we could be so strong together," she said, her voice filled with awe. Marcus smiled, gripping her hand gently. "We've always been stronger than anyone else could see. Strength isn't just the body, it's courage, trust, and heart." Word of the bond and the failed attack spread across Virelia. Some began to admire the human's bravery and Elira's wisdom. Others still whispered, unwilling to accept that tradition had been challenged. Yet slowly perception began to shift. The people saw that the princess, once thought weak, had risen above fear, and that a human, once considered reckless, had proven loyalty and courage. In private, Elira reflected on the day's events. She realized that her blindness and physical limitations had never defined her. Through Marcus, she could experience the world in a new way. Yet she also realized that her own mind, intuition, and heart had guided him just as much. The bond was mutual, a partnership of equals. As days turned into weeks, Marcus and Elira trained together, preparing for future challenges. They explored the palace, studied diplomacy, and even learned combat strategies. Elira's unique abilities, once dismissed, became a source of strategic advantage. She could sense subtle movements, hear distant whispers, and anticipate danger before it arrived. Marcus, in turn, taught her the ways of humans: quick thinking, adaptability, and courage under pressure. Their connection inspired others. Young nobles began to question old prejudices, learning that courage and worth were not defined by sight, strength, or tradition. Elira became a symbol of resilience, while Marcus represented the courage to see beyond appearances. Together they bridged worlds and inspired hope. Lord Tarev, however, remained a threat. Humiliated by his failure, he plotted again, this time seeking to challenge the bond directly. He believed that if he could force Elira into a situation she could not endure, the bond would break, and he would gain power. But Marcus and Elira anticipated his schemes. Their bond was more than ritual. It was trust, understanding, and shared willpower. One evening, Lord Tarev arranged a test under the guise of a diplomatic journey. Elira and Marcus were invited to visit a distant Varelian colony, where unrest had been reported. As their ship descended into the colony, an ambush awaited. Rebels, armed and aggressive, surrounded the landing zone. Marcus felt the danger immediately. "Stay close," he said, his voice steady through the bond. Elira responded with calm focus, sensing the positions of attackers and the layout of the area. Together, they formulated a plan. Marcus would lead the physical defense, while Elira guided the movements of their allies and anticipated threats. The fight was intense. Bullets and energy blasts flew, but Marcus moved with precision, enhanced by Elira's insight. She could not fight physically, but her awareness of the environment allowed him to anticipate traps, avoid ambushes, and counterattack effectively. The rebels were skilled, yet they could not overcome the coordination and intuition shared between human and princess. In the heat of battle, Marcus was struck by a powerful blow. Pain shot through him and he staggered, but Elira's focus reached him through the bond. She transmitted calm, strength, and strategy, allowing him to recover instantly. He smiled grimly, realizing that their bond was more than connection. It was life itself, a shared force that neither enemy nor circumstance could sever. After the rebels were defeated, the colony leaders approached, astonished by what they had witnessed. The princess, once doubted and rejected, had guided the defense with clarity and courage. The human, once seen as reckless, had protected her and the colony with unmatched bravery. Together they had turned a potential disaster into a triumph. Returning to the palace, the council convened in full. They could no longer deny the significance of the bond. Elira and Marcus stood together, presenting not only proof of their connection but evidence of its strength and wisdom. Even skeptics were moved by the undeniable truth. Courage, compassion, and trust could surpass prejudice, tradition, and fear. Elira looked around the council chamber, her heart steady. "I have been rejected many times," she said softly but firmly, "because I was different. Today we have shown that difference is not weakness and courage is not bound by species or tradition." Marcus added, "We are stronger together. This bond is not a challenge to your ways. It is proof that understanding, empathy, and trust can make us all stronger." The council nodded, slowly acknowledging their words. Change would take time, but a new respect had been born. Across Varelia, people began to whisper of the human who bonded with the princess, not as a scandal or mistake, but as inspiration. In the days that followed, Elira and Marcus continued to grow together. They trained, explored, and faced challenges, each strengthening their bond. Elira discovered new abilities, heightened by Marcus's guidance, while Marcus learned patience, perception, and empathy in ways he had never imagined. Through their connection, they showed the galaxy a simple truth. Courage and compassion are not limited by tradition, species, or expectation. They are universal. As the twin suns set once more over the crystal towers of Varelia, Elira stood on her balcony, Ephor,